I need you to picture something with me. Not imagine. Picture. Close your eyes if you have to. There is a dining room table. It seats 8. There is a white linen tablecloth, ironed flat. There are candles. Not one, not a single sad taper, but a dozen tea lights scattered between flower arrangements. Real flowers. Peonies and eucalyptus. The kind that cost money, the kind that smell like someone tried. There is a 3-tier cake in the center of the table, ivory fondant with gold lettering. There are champagne flutes, full. There are wrapped gifts stacked at the end of the table like an altar. There are 8 people seated around it, and every single one of them is looking at the same person. And that purse is glowing. The particular glow of someone who knows, in this moment, that the whole world has organized itself around them. Now I need you to picture something else. Same city, 2 miles away, a kitchen. Clean, nice even. Granite countertops, good light. A woman standing at the counter alone. She is 32 years old. She is wearing the blazer she wore to work. Because she came home and didn't bother changing. Because, what was the point? Because there was no one to change for. In front of her is a single cupcake. Lemon drizzle. Bought from the bakery on the corner where the Polish couple always add extra icing. She has pressed a single white candle into the top of it. She is looking at it. She is looking at it like it is the most honest thing anyone has ever given her. Because she gave it to herself. Because nobody else did. And then her phone buzzes, and she picks it up, and she opens Facebook, and she sees the dining room table, the peonies, the champagne, the gold-lettered cake, the 8 people all looking at the same glowing person. And the timestamp says, today, 4:32 p.m., and the caption says, so proud of our boy. Celebrating Callum's big promotion. Our family couldn't be more blessed. And the woman with the single candle in her kitchen 2 miles away reads the word family. She reads it the way you read a word that has been used wrong so many times you've almost forgotten what it was supposed to mean. And she feels something settle in her chest like a stone dropping through. Still water, slow and final, all the way to the bottom. That woman is me. My name is Quinn Edwards. I was 32 years old the night I stood in my kitchen, and finally I understood that the thing I had been waiting for my whole life was never coming. Not because my family had forgotten me, but because they had looked right at the calendar, seen my birthday, and filled it with someone else on purpose. They didn't just forget my birthday. They chose him again, but here's what they didn't know. What nobody knew yet, not even me. Standing there with my candle and my phone and my stone-bottom chest, there was a shoebox in my father's attic, and inside that shoebox was a letter. And that letter was about to detonate everything. Before I tell you what was in it, I need you to understand how we got here. Because this story didn't start with a Facebook post. It started when I was 7 years old, on a folding chair, at a football field, watching my brother score goals on what was supposed to be my birthday. And it didn't end until I put that letter on my parents' dining room table and watched my father's face collapse like a building coming down. Stay with me. If this is already hitting somewhere deep, pause right now and drop a comment. Just the word, scene. That's all, because I want to know how many of you are watching this from your own kitchen, with your own candle, wondering how long you've been the person your family forgets to celebrate. You are not alone. Now let's go back to the beginning. The first birthday I remember being erased, I was 7 years old. It was October. The trees were already turning amber and rust, and that particular red that only lasts 2 weeks before it falls. I had asked for a birthday tea. Not a party, not something elaborate. Party rings. A pass the parcel. Some girls from school. My mother had said, of course, we'll sort something. And I had believed her the way 7-year-olds believe things. Completely, without reservation, with the whole weight of themselves. Then Callum's football team made the regional qualifiers. The tournament was Saturday. My birthday tea was Saturday evening while I was eating cereal at the kitchen counter, while she was already on her phone making other arrangements, that we were going to the tournament instead. She said it the way you say we're having chicken tonight. Matter of fact, already decided. The kind of sentence that doesn't leave space for a response because the person saying it has already stopped thinking about whether you might have. 1. I didn't cry. That's the detail that breaks my heart now, looking back. I didn't cry. I was 7 years old, and I had already learned, somehow, not to. We drove to a muddy field in the next county. I sat on a folding chair in my winter coat for 3 hours. Callum scored 2 goals. On the way home, my parents stopped at McDonald's to celebrate. My father bought Callum a McFlurry and put his arm around him and said, "That's my boy." I sat in the back seat with my happy meal. And I looked out the window at the dark countryside going past, and I thought, in the wordless way children think things that they don't yet have language for. I don't think today was about me. It was the first time I thought it. It was not the last. The pattern is the thing. Not any single moment. Not the birthday, not the graduation, not the Christmas where Callum got a car and I got a gift card. But the pattern, the repetition of it, year after year, the way it calcified from oversight into architecture, from something that could be apologized for into something structural, something that held up the whole house of our family. Here is the pattern. Callum needed more. That was the established truth, the family doctrine, the thing everyone simply knew and operated within. He had struggled at school, genuine dyslexia, undiagnosed until he was 12, absolutely real and absolutely hard and something that required support. I am not disputing that. I want to be careful here, because I am not telling you a story about a villain. Callum is not the villain. My parents are not villains. Villainy is clean and simple, and this story is neither. What I am telling you is that somewhere inside the legitimate project of supporting my brother, my parents developed the habit of not seeing me, and they practiced the habit so consistently, for so long, that it became instinct. It became reflex. It became the water we all swam in. Quinn is fine. Quinn manages. Quinn doesn't need anything. I was 15 when I overheard the conversation that I still carry in my body. I mean that literally. I feel it in my sternum when I think about it, like pressing on a bruise. I was at the top of the stairs. My parents were in the kitchen. They were talking about secondary school choices for Callum, about extra tutoring, about costs, about how they'd figure it out. My father said, "Quinn will be all right. She always lands on her feet." My mother said, "She's not like Callum, she doesn't need the same holding." Doesn't need the same holding. I went back to my room and I sat on my bed, and I thought about what that meant. I thought about it for a long time. And then I did what I had already been training myself to do for 8 years. I folded it up, very small, and I put it somewhere inside me. I drafted his launch copy. I called in a favor with an editor I knew and got him a piece in a regional lifestyle magazine that he would never have, secured on his own. I did all of it, every bit of it. And when the piece came out and his website traffic quadrupled in a week, he texted me, "Cheers, mate." That was the full message. Cheers, mate. My mother called the same day to say she was so proud of Callum's new venture. She did not say she was proud of me for building it. And then came March. March of the year I turned 32. I was being considered for a significant promotion. Senior PR executive. The kind of role that changes the architecture of your professional life, that comes with a team under you, and a client list that means something, and a bonus significant enough to move numbers around. I was focused. I was working. I was the kind of disciplined and intent that you have to be when you want something badly enough. I was also, apparently, being discussed. My colleague Priya, extraordinary woman, loyal like granite, forwarded me a screenshot. Not from our work channels. From a message thread I'd never seen before. One that included my mother, my father, Callum, and one of Callum's university friends. My mother's message was about my bonus. She had apparently heard about it from Callum, who had apparently heard about it from someone at an industry events. The message read, "Quinn's always been better with money than with people. She can spare it. She doesn't have the same family responsibilities." Callum has better with money than with people. My own mother. About me. In a message I was never meant to see. Spoken with the casual confidence of someone who has been permitted, for decades, to define who you are without your knowledge or consent. 2 days later, the message appeared on the family group chat. From my father, which was unusual. He barely used it. It said, "Family matter to discuss. Callum needs support with a financial situation. Would appreciate everyone's contribution. Quinn, given your recent success, we were thinking you could cover the main amount. Approximately £25,000. We'll explain more at Sunday dinner. £25,000. Not a question. Not would you be able to help, no pressure. A declaration. We were thinking you could cover the main amount." As though my entire professional life, every early morning, every difficult client, every year of being fine and managing and not needing anything, had been building toward the moment I could be useful enough to bail out my brother's failed property investment. I want to tell you exactly what I felt reading that message, because I think it matters. I didn't feel angry. Not yet. What I felt was something much quieter and much more devastating. A kind of terrible clarity, the way a room looks when someone turns on the lights after you've been sitting in the dark. So long, you forgot what anything actually looked like. I saw all of it at once. The birthday on the folding chair, the graduation with the self-timer, the thumbs-up emoji for the award, the cheers mate text, the better with money than with people, and now this. £25,000. Given your recent success. I put the phone down on my desk. I sat very still for a long time, and then I opened my calendar and I wrote, Sunday dinner. Last one. I drove to my parents' house on Sunday. The same semi-detached with the turning trees where I'd grown up, where my 7th birthday had dissolved into a football tournament. Where I had learned to fold things up small and keep them inside me. My mother had made a roast. There was wine. It was very civilized for a while. My father explained the situation. Callum had overextended on a property investment. The shortfall was $27,000. They had $2,000 from savings. They needed the rest from me. I looked around the table. My mother was watching me with the expression I had seen 1,000 times. The one that meant, be reasonable, Quinn, don't make this difficult. Callum was looking at his plate. My father had his hands folded on the table with the particular posture of a man who has already decided the matter is settled. I said, "No." The word landed in the middle of the table like something thrown. My father said, "Quinn." "No." "No," I said again. I had rehearsed it. I had rehearsed it in the car, and in the shower, and in the mirror, and in the quiet of my apartment at 3 a.m. When the grief and the anger took turns, keeping me awake. This is not my debt to pay. I didn't make this investment. I wasn't consulted. And the way this was communicated to me. I took out my phone and put the screenshot on the table. Priya's forwarded message. My mother's words. Better with money than with people. Face up in the middle of the Sunday roast was not a request. It was an expectation. My mother said, "Who sent you that? That's not what matters. It's private family." "I am family," I said. The steadiness in my own voice surprised me. When there's money needed, when there's free work to be done, when there's a contact to leverage, I'm family then. When it's my birthday, when it's my graduation, when it's my promotion, those days are harder to remember, apparently. Callum said, "That's not fair." "I'm not asking for fairness," I said. "I've stopped asking for fairness. I'm telling the truth. This family has a pattern, and I've spent 32 years accommodating it." I stood up. I picked up my phone. "I love you," I said to all three of them, and I meant it. The complicated, load-bearing, thoroughly exhausted love of someone who has stayed too long in a dynamic that was costing them everything. But I'm done. I walked out of the house. I got in my car. I drove away, and about 20 minutes into the drive, somewhere on the dark motorway, with the city lights coming up on the horizon, something happened that I was completely unprepared for. I started to feel like myself, not the self that managed and folded things up and was always fine, Not the self that checked the group chat for recognition that never came. A different self. Older, quieter, more solid at the center. The self that had always been there, waiting under all the accommodation. I drove home. I made tea. I sat at my kitchen table and I opened my laptop and I typed into the search bar. Lakefront properties within an hour of the city. I had been looking at houses the way you look at things you haven't fully committed to wanting yet. Late-night scrollsing. Bookmarked listings. Building a picture of a life I was almost ready to claim. The bonus came through in April, and I sat with it for a week, and then I called an estate agent. There was one property, 40 minutes outside the city, a B road through farmland that opened suddenly onto a long lake, gray-blue and still, with birch trees along the far shore that would turn gold in October. The house was stone-built. It needed work, dated kitchen, a back bedroom with water damage, a garden overgrown all the way down to the water. But the bones were extraordinary. I stood in the empty sitting room on a Friday morning, and I looked at the lake through the south-facing windows, and the light coming in was the kind of light that feels like a personal promise. I thought, this is my birthday gift to myself, not just for the 32nd birthday, for all of them. For the 7th birthday on the folding chair, for the graduation with the self-timer against the stone wall, for every dinner where I held my tongue and swallowed my hurt and was fine, for every year of being the woman who bought herself a cupcake because no one else thought to buy her a cake. I made an offer that afternoon. I signed the contracts in June. I sat at a solicitor's desk with a pen in my hand and my name in full, Quinn Elizabeth Edwards, on the line. The solicitor said, "Congratulations. The property is yours." I walked out into the summer street and called my friend Delia and started crying. Immediately, the ugly, relieved kind. The renovation took 4 months. My builder Fran, meticulous, brilliant, who understood exactly what I was trying to do. Refinished the floors, rebuilt the kitchen, fixed the water damage in the back bedroom, turned it into a study-lined floor to ceiling with shelves. We cleared the garden to the water's edge. We put in a small dock, just big enough to stand on, just big enough to sit at the end of, with your feet dangling, and the lake in front of you, and the whole world quiet. I moved in on a Thursday in October. I stood in the empty sitting room with the afternoon light coming in, and the lake outside and everything I had built reflected back at me, and I let myself feel all of it, the pride and the grief and the staggering, specific joy of having given yourself exactly what you needed when no one else would. My neighbor from the old building, Margaret, 71, retired librarian, the woman who had been more consistently present to me than my own family for 6 years, had helped me pack. The weekend before the move, we'd sat on my old floor with wine until midnight. She was the one who had said, months ago, when I first told her about the dinner, "You've been feeding birds that don't come to your window, Quinn. You're allowed to move the feeder." I had written that down. I had it on a piece of paper on my new desk in my new study. I found the letter while helping my father clear his attic the previous Christmas. He had asked me, not Callum, me, to go through a box of old financial documents and summarize them, because paperwork gave him anxiety, he said, and he knew I was organized and efficient. I was happy to help. I sat cross-legged on the attic floor with the box in my lap, and I went through it, methodically, the way I do everything. Most of it was ordinary. Bank statements, old insurance documents, a rental contract from the flat he'd had before he met my mother, and then a letter from a solicitor, dated 11 years ago, headed with the name of my paternal grandmother's estate. I read it once, then I read it again. Then I sat very still in the attic for a long time. My grandmother had left money, a meaningful sum, the kind that changes things, divided equally between her son's children, both of them, her 2 grandchildren. The letter confirmed that the funds had been received by my parents and were to be held in trust, to be distributed to each grandchild upon reaching the age of 21. I was 21 11 years ago. I have never received a penny of my grandmother's inheritance. I put the letter very carefully back in the folder. I put the folder back in the box. I finished summarizing the rest of the documents, just as my father had asked, just as I always did. Efficient, reliable, fine. I carried the box downstairs. I handed my father the summary. I stayed for Christmas dinner. I drove home, and for 11 months, I said nothing. I made copies of the letter first, multiple copies. I kept them in different places. I kept one in the shoebox with the birthday photograph and the graduation photo, and the printed WhatsApp transcript, and all the other evidence I had, without planning to, been quietly accumulating my whole life. Evidence of a pattern. Evidence of a choice. Because that's what the letter meant, I kept coming back to that. My parents hadn't been absent-minded. They hadn't been overwhelmed or forgetful or stretched too thin. They had received money designated for me. They had held it, and they had redirected it. To Callum's 18th birthday car, probably. To his property investment deposit. To the lifestyle that my parents always claimed was made necessary by the pressures of supporting him, the finances being tight, the families simply not having the sparse resources to celebrate Quinn's graduations, or Quinn's awards, or Quinn's existence, with the same vigor they'll brought to everything involving my brother. The finances weren't tight. The finances were being managed in one direction. I called my parents in September and asked if we could have a family dinner. I said I wanted to talk properly. I said I would come to them. I drove to the semi-detached in October, almost exactly a year after the birthday with the cupcake. The same trees were turning. I parked in the same spot I had always parked. I went inside. I put my shoebox by the door. We ate. We talked about nothing. My mother had cooked. There was wine. Callum was there, which I hadn't expected, and I decided it was right. He needed to be there. He needed to hear it. After the plates were cleared, I retrieved the shoebox and placed it on the table. "I've been going through some things," I said. The first photograph. My 7th birthday, folding chair, football field, face turned away from the game with an expression I could now read with devastating clarity. "I am waiting for someone to notice me." My 7th birthday, I said. We were at Callum's tournament. The 2nd, my graduation, self-timer, stone wall. My graduation. You left before my row was called. The WhatsApp transcript highlighted. The £25,000 request. And then, last, placed in the center of the table with the particular care of someone setting down something irreversible. The photocopies of the solicitor's letter. My grandmother's estate. Equal shares. Both grandchildren. Both. I watched my father's face. It was subtle, and it was unmistakable, and it was the confirmation of everything. Grandma Edwards left money to both her grandchildren, I said. According to this, my share was £32,000. I looked at him directly. I've never received it. Can you explain that? The silence was the loudest thing I had ever heard in that house. Callum said, "What?" Quietly, genuinely. The bewilderment of someone hearing something for the first time, not performing surprise, but actually feeling it. I looked at him. He was staring at the photocopy with an expression that was confusion. And, beneath it, something dawning, the particular look of someone beginning to understand something they're not going to like understanding. "Did you know?" I asked. "No, immediate. Unambiguous, I believed him. My father said, 'It's more complicated than.'" "How?" I said. "How is it more complicated than a letter designating money for me that I never received?" "There were debts. Your grandmother had debts that needed." "The year after Grandma died," I said. "Callum got a car for his 18th birthday. I remember it because I was 16 and I helped polish it. I'm wondering if there's a connection." My mother started to cry, not the happy tears from the Facebook photos. I had memorized those, the free-flowing, proud tears of a mother celebrating the child she had decided to love most visibly. These were different. These were the trapped kind. The kind that come when something that has been kept in the dark is suddenly, irreversibly, in the light. "We were trying to give him a good start," she said. "He'd struggled so much it wasn't. I know he struggled," I said. My voice wanted to crack and I held it. I watched him struggle. I helped him struggle. I used to sit with him in year 8 and read his history homework aloud, because it was easier for him to hear it than to read it himself. I was 10. I did that because I loved him, and I wanted to help him, and it felt like the right thing to do. I paused. I was part of this family. I was here. I just didn't receive the same parts of it. Callum put his face in his hands. I'm not here to destroy anything, I said. I'm not here for the money. I have my own money. I've built my own life. I bought myself a house with my own hands and my own work, and I am proud of that in ways I can't fully describe. I'm here because I spent 32 years waiting for you to see me, and waiting didn't work, so I'm trying honesty instead. I looked at each of them in turn. I just need you to say it. That's all. I need someone in this family to say, we saw you less, and that was wrong. My father didn't say it. Not that night. He sat with his hands on the table and his face doing the complicated, shuttered work of a man who has built a version of himself as a good father and is watching the architecture of it crack. He would get there, eventually. Not that night, not even that year, but eventually. In the way some people do, slowly and with difficulty and imperfectly, he would get there. My mother said something that was close. Not exact, not complete, but close. A fracture in the wall of justification. The first breach after 3 decades of maintenance. Callum stood up from the table and left the room. When he came back, his eyes were red. He said, I'm sorry, Quinn. I didn't know about the money. He paused. But I knew it wasn't fair. I knew, and I didn't say anything, and I'm sorry. And that unexpected, unglamorous, honest sentence from my brother was the thing that finally broke me open. I cried. Not the composed, controlled kind, the real kind. The kind that comes from the deepest place, from the 7-year-old on the folding chair and the 22-year-old with the self-demeanor and the third with the candle and the cupcake in the empty kitchen. I sat at my parents' dining room table and I cried, and my brother put his hand on my shoulder, and after a moment my mother put her hand on my other shoulder. And my father looked at his hands, and we sat like that in the wreckage and the truth of it, and it was not resolution, not fixed, not healed, not over, but it was real, and after a lifetime of surfaces, real was enough to begin. Here's what I need you to understand before I tell you what happened next. That moment, that dinner, that letter, that crack in the wall, it didn't fix 32 years. It didn't restore what was taken. What it did was something different and in some ways more valuable. It ended my silence. And the moment I ended my silence, I stopped needing them to validate what I already knew. If you are watching this and you are sitting on a secret of your own, a financial betrayal, a pattern you've never named out loud, a family myth you've been too afraid to dismantle, drop it in the comments. Even one word. You don't have to be ready. You just have to start. My 33rd birthday is in October. The birches on the far shore have turned gold and amber, and that deep russet that only lasts 2 weeks before it lets go, which makes you look at it differently, with the attention reserved for things that are beautiful and temporary. The lake is the particular silver gray of autumn mornings. The dock is cold under my feet and I don't care. There are 12 people in my garden. Delia, who drove 3 hours and arrived with enough food for 30. Priya and her boyfriend, who spent an hour on the dock talking about nothing in particular. Which is one of my favorite things Priya does. My colleague James, who brought wine from a vineyard he visited in the summer that turned out to be extraordinary. Margaret, who I drove to collect from the city, because she doesn't drive long distances anymore, and who sat in the passenger seat and talked about what her first house had meant to her, and whose voice I listened to with my whole self. 12 people. Here because they chose to be. Here because I chose them. Here because we had all, separately and together, done the work of showing up for each other the way family is supposed to. Not because of blood or obligation, or the particular gravity of shared history, but because we had decided each other were worth celebrating, and we kept deciding it consistently without forgetting. There is a cake. A real one. 3 tiers, made by James's partner who does this professionally, with Quinn written on it in dark chocolate ganache. There are real flowers on the table. There is champagne. Someone has strung lights along the garden fence, and in the dusk they are coming on, one by one. Callum sent flowers this morning, from a florist with a card that said, "Happy birthday, Quinn. I see you. I'm sorry it took so long." I read that card 4 times. I put it on my desk next to Margaret's thing about birds and windows. My mother sent a text. It said, "Thinking of you today. I hope you're doing something lovely. You deserve it. It is not everything. It is something. I am learning to hold both truths at once. Something is not nothing, and something is not everything, and neither cancels the other out. I am learning to love imperfect people. Imperfectly, without needing their love to be the thing that tells me I exist. I am standing on the dock in the late afternoon, a glass in my hand, the lake silver in front of me. 12 people I love in my garden behind me, and I am thinking about all the years I spent waiting. I spent so long waiting to be seen by people who had decided, somewhere along the way, that another version of me, useful, accommodating, endlessly fine, was easier to live with than the real one. I waited at birthday tables that weren't set for me. I waited in graduation courtyards, with a self-timer for company. I waited for a thumbs-up emoji to feel like enough. I waited for a family group chat to hold my name with care, rather than as a line item. I waited, and I folded things up small, and I kept them inside me, and I told myself it didn't matter, and I kept waiting. And then I stopped, not because someone arrived and saw me and told me I was worth it. That's not how it happens. That's the version of the story we tell ourselves when we're still waiting, that someday, someone will come along and recognize us, and that recognition will be what unlocks the door. But the door opens from the inside. It has always opened from the inside. I just had to stop standing at the window waiting for someone to knock. I bought myself a house with a dock and a lake and birch trees that turn gold, in October. I put a letter on a table and told the truth and cried in front of my family for the first time in 32 years. I built a life populated with people who know my birthday without being reminded, who celebrate my promotions without needing to be asked, who hold me with care because that is the kind of people they are and the kind of people I chose. I chose them. That's the part they don't tell you. That chosen family is a choice, a daily one, an active one, and so is everything else. Choosing to stay silent is a choice. Choosing to finally speak is a choice. Choosing to move the feeder, as Margaret says, when the birds don't come to your window. That is a choice. I chose myself. And here is what I want to leave you with, standing on my dock on my 33rd birthday, with the lights coming on behind me, and the lake going silver in front of me. And the sound of 12 people who love me drifting across the garden. You are not obligated to wait to be celebrated. You are not required to perform gratitude for scraps of attention from people who should be offering feasts. You are not the family members who exists to be useful in the hard times and invisible in the good ones. You are not the one who buys their own candle, or, if you are, right now, the one buying their own candle, I want you to know something. That candle is not a symbol of how little you have. It is proof that you show up for yourself even when no one else does. And that quality, that stubborn, bone-deep, almost unreasonable commitment to still being there for yourself, is going to build you something extraordinary. It built me a dock. It built me a lake. It built me 12 people and a 3-tier cake with my name on it. It will build you something too. If you've been the forgotten one, the overlooked child, the sibling who existed in the margins, the daughter who got a thumbs up when she deserved a standing ovation, drop your story in the comments. Did you ever have your own dinner? Your own letter? Your own moment where you finally said no more? Tell me. I want to know. Because you are not as alone as you feel in those quiet kitchens. And the more of us who say it out loud, the easier it becomes for the next person, who is still standing at the window, still waiting, still not yet ready to believe the door opens from the inside. I see you. I have always seen you. I was you. And if this story found you somewhere real today, if it sat in your chest the way it sat in mine for 32 years, then like this video, because it tells the algorithm that stories like this one matter. Subscribe because I am not done telling them, every week, the true cost of being the one who was overlooked and the extraordinary things that happen when you decide to stop paying it. And before you go, tell me in the comments, should my next story be about inheritance theft or wedding sabotage? Because I have files on both, and I am just getting started.